Back in the early 10s, The Miz was seen as a huge prospect. He main evented WrestleMania, featured on several TV shows and commercials, and it seemed like he had that superstar quality to him, but as time went on, he fell down the card and others started doing well. The Miz was losing more often, he was placed in these feuds that didn't do much for him, and I guess it was time for a change. He had a nice run up to this very point. He captured the WWE Championship, the United States Championship, Money in the Bank, main evented a bunch of pay-per-views, but he wasn't the same. Upon his return at Money in the Bank, The Miz changed his look. No more was that faux hawk, instead he looked elegant. Miz found success immediately capturing the Intercontinental Championship for the first time, and this made him a Grand Slam champion, I believe. He held the title for about 3 months before losing it to Kofi Kingston, and this match in particular was one of the most iconic matches to come from main event. I haven't watched this since, but I remember hearing a lot about it at the time. After CM Punk left him to take a beating from Ryback along with a couple of others, The Miz thought CM Punk's actions were unbecoming of a leader. Paul Heyman, though, saw it as a strategic tactic. This in turn caused The Miz to quit the team, and on paper, this was a terrible idea in kayfabe because, for one, he's on the cover of Survivor Series, and I assume his publicist informed him of this, and two, he had nowhere else to go. Dolph Ziggler, though, believed he would beg his way into the team, and if anything, he's not Team Ziggler material. Oddly enough, The Miz wanted to be on the ballot for Team Foley at Survivor Series, and with the help of Kane, The Miz won the tag team match, and he was confirmed for Survivor Series. The Miz was going to be on the same team as Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, and Kofi Kingston. All of these men shared a similarity with him. The fact that they were fierce rivals, they were notable rivals of The Miz. He was one of the final men eliminated from Foley's side, leaving Randy Orton alone, and the man was starting to act casual with John Cena and others. Soon enough, The Miz decided to challenge Cesaro. He was insulted by his U.S. claims and went on about how the United States Championship was prestigious. Generic heel 101, I'm better than you, you're American, If you thought that was bad, well, you didn't see nothing yet. On the January 14, 2013 episode of Raw, the 20th anniversary episode, The Miz hosted Miz TV. His guest was Ric Flair. This was one of Flair's first appearances for WWE in a while. I believe he had returned at the Slammy Awards. After having fun with the Nature Boy, Antonio Cesaro, though, heard enough. He trashed Ric Flair for earning $10 million and spending $20 million. He said that Like America Flair was once good, but he has nothing to show for it now. The 4 symbols represents his ex-wives. The Miz, though, wanted to do something about this like Flair was his father, and Cesaro thought it was best to walk away. Flair brings him back in and basically told The Miz to lock in the figure 4, and there it is. The Miz took the figure 4 as his move from here on, and it was bizarre. The thing is, Miz is not a submission wrestler. He wasn't going to dissect a leg and go for it, So it was kind of weird. Then again, John Cena is not a submission wrestler either. The Miz failed to beat Cesaro at the Rumble, but the feud continued afterwards. Cesaro had enough of The Miz's whining and thought he was a typical American. He ended up taking this as an opportunity to strike, and they brawled. Cesaro was frustrated with this and returned the favor by swinging Miz around, and as for their match at Elimination Chamber, the challenger had a huge disadvantage. Even then, he found momentum and lost because of an accidental low blow, so they faced off in an ODQ match the next night. The Miz won it quickly because it was, of course, non-title, and as a result of this, he got yet another title shot, but this time it was going to be 2 out of 3 falls. Similar to the previous title match, Miz came close. He had beaten Cesaro once, certainly he could do it again, right? But Cesaro pulled the tights and stole the match. He went on to focus on other things, whereas The Miz went to the Intercontinental Championship. On the March 9, 2013 episode of Raw, Chris Jericho hosted the highlight reel with his guest being The Miz, who I should also note was the star of the Marine 3 at this point. The IC champion Wade Barrett took issue with The Miz being considered a movie star, as he, on the other hand, declined several offers in favor of being the Intercontinental Champion. Miz, though, could see through this and claimed that Barrett used this as an excuse to hide the fact that he's been losing often. Jericho did his own really, Miz's really thing, and Barrett told him to shut up. Y2J wanted to put his name in the hat for a potential 10th Intercontinental Championship, but Brad Maddox came out and cut this bizarre promo which led to Michael Cole calling this the worst segment in the history of Raw. Little did he know. Now, this promo was awkward. It was bizarre as hell. Man was talking about the Jeritron 5000, which was already taken away because it was screwed up, and he ended up getting some heat over this apparently, and Cole was apparently told by the boss to say that this was the worst segment, which it clearly wasn't. Jericho ended up getting frustrated by this, cusses out Cole on SmackDown, and gets McMahon to admit that he overreacted on that claim. It's a weird thing. I don't hear many talk about it because it's not that notable. Anyways, they have this tight-ass match a week later for the title with Barrett coming out on top. Once again, Miz had a great performance, but no gold to show for it. That's the story of this babyface run. It was clear where this was heading, and with Chris Jericho focused on Fandango, it allowed Miz to face Barrett the following week in a winning effort. Barrett had taken a beating from Triple H earlier and Miz capitalized to basically make himself #1 contender. Now, their match at WrestleMania feels so forgettable because it happened on the pre-show. It's not the pre-show of today either. You know, back then, the pre-shows were kind of different. I remember watching the match, but it's so insignificant looking back. Not only because it happened on the pre-show, but what followed afterwards. For The Miz, though, it was a somewhat standout night as he emerged the new Intercontinental Champion. That's good and all, but his title run fell victim to the Raw after WrestleMania. And Wade Barrett won it. He was just cooler at the time. He had a very sudden finisher and would continue gaining momentum. He ended up debuting the whole bad news thing. As for The Miz, he basically disappeared, and he did have his reasons for disappearing here, unlike what's to come. The Miz was set to feature in the Christmas Bounty movie, so that's why he was out. The thing is, even if he was around, it was it. With that said, The Miz finally made his return in May and almost immediately got himself an Intercontinental Championship match. During the match, Fandango decided to dance to his own theme song, and Miz's reaction is like they asked him to turn face again today. He had enough and it ended in a DQ. They jump him. Fandango forgets that Barrett doesn't like this type of stuff and takes the elbow. The Miz returned the favor to both of them by screwing them over and instead making Summer Rae the winner. The drama between these three continued heating up in the next couple of weeks and even outside the ring because Fandango suffered an untimely injury. Was he going to win the title around here? Well, in his interview with Chris Van Vliet, Fandango confirmed that the title was his, but a concussion during the match with the Great Khali meant he was out. So Paul Heyman brought out his replacement, Curtis Axel. The Miz, though, made sure that he wasn't overlooked ahead of the triple threat match, and about this one, if you asked me in May or June of 2013, hey, which wrestlers have the most momentum or hype behind them, I would have said John Cena, Ryback, and Curtis Axel. So you know who won. Plus, it was Father's Day, and having the son win the title for his dad was just too damn good. It's not an opportunity you should pass up. Even though at this point babyface Miz was cursed, and I mean it, because this man was allergic to any meaningful wins, he still wanted the Intercontinental Championship. After embarrassing himself and Curtis Axel by doing some Star Wars references and saying he's not his father, he asked Paul Heyman, hey, what if Axel doesn't fit the mold of a Paul Heyman guy and loses the title to me? Curtis didn't underestimate Miz and took this personally, so he wanted a title match right now. Heyman said that Axel got to the top without any shortcuts, unlike this reality show guy, and so he responded saying that Curtis Axel is losing the title to him and the champion attack. This may have seemed like Axel had the edge heading into Money in the Bank, but on the final SmackDown, both men were unsuccessful in the rematches with Ryback and Chris Jericho. As for Money in the Bank, it's babyface Miz. You know how it ends. When it matters most, he loses, and that's no different here. The man's IQ was in room temperature the entire time he was a babyface. The tactics he used to win matches as a heel were being used against him. That's how much he fell off. Luckily, and this depends on your perspective, he got to host SummerSlam. Since he was a main eventer in WWE's Ambassador division, he was the right choice. Plus, he was supposed to promote that Google Glass or whatever the hell it was at the time. SummerSlam also provided him his next feud. During the show, Fandango was constantly interrupting him and he got his. Simple as that, and it led to a feud. This greatly affected him, and the next night on Raw, he ruined The Miz's match. Imagine taking a beating and this man decides to dance with his lady on top of you. For once, Miz actually had a great performance against the main eventer, and sure, he came up short, but he pushed the champion to the limit, and plus, the champion needed the Shield out there to watch his back. At other times, though, it's a different story. For the Fandango feud, Miz never lost to him, not on Raw and certainly not on pay-per-view, but it wasn't going to get any better here. After losing the WWE title, Randy Orton basically lost his train of thought, and unfortunately for The Miz, this beatdown took place in his hometown. The self-proclaimed awesome one showed fire and aggression, but ultimately Orton was far too overpowered on this night. He was beaten and victimized in front of his parents, and his reward for this beatdown, another one. But before that could happen, Triple H told The Miz that he's got to interview The Big Show. He slandered Stephanie over the whole Dusty Rhodes thing, and she took great offense, so he told her to shove it up her ass, and Stephanie likened this anger to the fact that Miz peaked early and his irrelevance. Even though she praised him for his incredible work ethic and being a utility player, she wanted The Big Show to knock him out. Man was flabbergasted, and Big Show quickly reacted like he was craving it. Miz was fuming. He was pissed over these turn of events, but once again, Triple H had the most to say about the situation. He explained that the reason why he didn't allow him to wrestle Orton on Monday was for his own protection, and the match with Orton was his opportunity. Miz, though, did not see it that way at all. The opportunity in his eyes was between a rock and a hard place. It was clear that Triple H was offended by Miz's castrating witch statement, but he also claimed that his wife regrets what she did to Miz. So they were willing to offer him another opportunity to face Randy Orton. The man was ready, willing, and able, but once again, Triple H started being snarky, asking if Miz wants his parents in the arena. Similar to the last time Orton was in the ring with Miz, it was one-sided. The match was even restarted to allow Orton to inflict the utmost damage to his pleasure. Miz certainly didn't forget about this and wanted to do something about it, but unfortunately for him, the Wyatt family had issues with him. And after Miz did the smartest thing in the entire face run by running away from them, they cost him his match with Randy Orton. Wyatt said that Miz was the epitome of everything he hated about this world. Wyatt didn't know what it would take for Miz to be satisfied with this craving for fame. He also assured him not to be afraid of suffering because he's gonna put him down. Miz had to turn to Kofi Kingston for help, and this entrance is a prime example of how irrelevant these two were at the time. Kofi had lost to Bray at Battleground and did the same here. Once again, Bray told him to enjoy his world because he's going to take it away. This happened again on Raw, and Miz tried putting up a fight, but he was not successful, and Wyatt began talking about how he could lead him to the gates of hell. Later that week on SmackDown, they abducted him and wrote "liar" on his chest. Miz lied there unconscious while Wyatt claimed he's finally going to understand the meaning of "follow the buzzards." At Hell in a Cell, the Miz finally tried fighting back. The man was embarrassed and unable to compete, but he was ready for a fight. Miz told Wyatt to leave his hillbillies and come out alone, and all that talk about "follow the buzzards," well, he's here now. Bray responded saying that if only Miz could see the monster behind his eyes, and there they were. They jumped him and Kane made his return. Miz was finally saved, only for Kane to chokeslam him. Then the next night he took the L to him in less than 2 minutes, and from here, it doesn't get better. I know we said it earlier, but I truly mean it. On the November 18th, 2013 episode of Raw, The Miz was set to team up with Kofi Kingston to face the Real Americans. The commentary noted that Miz and Kofi wanted individual matches rather than a tag team match, and this would come to a head later on. During the match, Kofi found an opening and was ready to tag Miz in. He's fingertips away. The complexion in the match was going to change when Miz decides to pull his arm and move away. So now he's a heel? Is he? Well, this heel run would be put to the test at Survivor Series. These two obviously faced off during the show, and the match definitely belonged on pay-per-view on paper, but this was 2013 Miz and Kofi Kingston. They weren't really the most notable wrestlers on the roster. The Miz managed to win this one, and afterwards he put his hand out, and Kofi decides to slap him. I would say Miz is a heel now, but what kind of heel does this kind of stuff? With that said, Miz once again beat Kofi in singles action, which led to them teaming up once again. Similar to last time, this didn't end well, and after losing the match, Kofi got slapped. The context of this feud is that they were two competitive men who were desperate to show that they were good. For the third time, they have a match, and Miz had to cheat to win this time around, so Kofi kicked them in the face. He got mad and returned the favor on SmackDown, and again, I'm just confused. Is he a heel? Is he a face? I don't know. What I do know is that TLC finally gave this feud an ending. It had been dry, nobody gave a damn about it, and Kofi Kingston was always losing, but they finally rectified that here, and they moved on. Following this, Miz did nothing and no. He barely wrestled leading up to WrestleMania, and when he did face anybody like Mark Henry or Sheamus, he lost. After WrestleMania 30, The Miz went on to shoot the Marine 4 and returned as a heel, and that's a different story. Okay, this is one of the worst face turns I have ever seen. Miz's stock went down rapidly after he turned into a babyface. Why is that? Due to a couple of reasons. For one, the booking was unpleasant. The Miz was somewhat loved by others as a heel because of how cool he was. He was insulting others. He had these great-ass promos and all that. He turned face. He was just dry. He didn't really do much. He was, it felt ungenuine at times too. That's the problem with this run. And it also didn't help that he was losing a lot, coming up short in title matches. All of that, it was just unpleasant. I can't really give you a favorite promo from this run because there's just not much. There just isn't. I always thought there was potential in the Miz face turn, but this run and the 2019 run showed otherwise. One thing that's for certain is that this is one of the worst face turns I've ever seen. This man went from notable mid-card heel, sometimes in the upper card, to a flat out forgettable babyface. I'll eventually do Miz's Hollywood run, when he returned as a Hollywood guy, the Damien Mizdow thing. I look forward to doing those things eventually, so yeah. Alright, what'd you guys think of Miz's face turn? Please comment down below, and that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the reality check on the like button, or perhaps the skull crushing finale on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.